I think any plant would be better at ethics than a human being. I think plants are generally more ethical than us, and more intelligent.
Imagining or feeling that the world is awake in that way, that the whole, biota is awake in that way, so that there are messages being exchanged all over, and some of them are coming to you, and you need to be awake enough to pick up on them and not just think, oh, it's just a meaningless accident. That's a shift in worldview.
I mean, plants are really good teachers. If any being is going to teach artificial intelligence, it would make sense to me that plants would, because I think of them as holding the complexity of the world, like, again, how to be in community, how to use resources in an appropriate way.
Like, plants aren't trying to do things for profit. You know what I mean? They don't have egos that I know of. Maybe that's one of them. I always say plants teach me unconditional love, because they're so generous and giving, and so I think I agree, let's just learn from the plants and skip the middle ground.
Toutes les plantes peuvent nous enseigner, enseigner l'éthique, mais là je choisis une particulière qui est l'angélique sylvestris, qui est une angélique sauvage, parce que c'est une des premières plantes avec lesquelles moi je suis rentrée en interaction magique, et qu'elle m'a enseigné beaucoup de choses. Et elle m'a enseigné notamment que les plantes, comme en fait la plupart des êtres vivants, ont besoin d'un consentement avant de donner quelque chose, avant de se donner comme médecine, comme soin, puisque l'angélique c'est une médicinale extrêmement puissante, une grande guérisseuse. Donc cette histoire de consentement, elle est très importante, elle a été très importante dans mon expérience avec l'angélique, puisque j'ai appris grâce à elle à demander l'autorisation à la nature, donc que ce soit après par la suite aux arbres, aux fleurs, aux plantes avec lesquelles je souhaitais entrer en interaction. Voilà, l'angélique elle m'a dit ok, bienvenue dans mon espace, mais avant que tu t'approches de moi, montre-moi qui tu es. Et on va voir si après je t'autorise ou pas à venir communiquer et entrer vraiment dans une interaction avec son esprit, puisque tout est esprit, et que l'angélique a un esprit qui impose le respect, mais mais sans autorité, sans force, sans brutalité, mais qui, de par sa présence, c'est un esprit qui a une connaissance tellement ancienne, tellement riche d'expérience dans le temps. Elle est très très vieille et donc elle connaît des choses et donc naturellement elle s'impose comme ça. Elle impose le respect.
I would choose burdock to teach artificial intelligence about ethics because burdock has this one strong root that goes down deep into the earth and breaks up that soil. And while it's doing that and aerating the soil, it's also conjuring up these properties that are very medicinal, at least to humans, right in that root. And also above, burdock creates these seed pods that stick to humans. And this is the part that, or to humans, to any animal, to anything. And this is the part that I think would be helpful for artificial intelligence to learn from, because it sticks and it travels, that seed, which also has medicine in it, travels, but then eventually it also lets go to rejoin with the earth and create a new plant. And I think that it's really important for artificial intelligence to learn, yes, to latch on, but also when to let go. And that's why I choose burdock.
That might be one way that you would teach artificial intelligence about plants, is by telling them stories. Because the experience of appreciating a plant, which, you know, as many herbal healers and shamanic healers know, you actually have to know the plant. You know, you actually have to know, like, the smell of it and the look of it and where it grows, and is it wild or is it cultivated, and if it's cultivated, who grew it, because what kind of intelligence or energy did they put into it. This is the native mugwort. This is Artemisia californica. And see, I feel like the smell is part of the teacher in this plant. The smell affects your thoughts and makes them more clear. And it has a kind of wildness and clarity in it.
L'angélique sauvage, elle a un rapport à la terre qui a échappé à la culture. On parle de la culture dominante, donc de la culture patriarcale, blanche, hétéro-masculine. Donc elle est en relation avec la terre, avec la déesse sauvage. Et du coup, je pense qu'elle serait sans doute plus appropriée que l'angélique qui est cultivée dans les jardins médicinaux par les êtres humains. Et en fait, moi, cette fleur, je sais pas pourquoi, mais elle me fait penser aux étoiles, elle me fait penser à la constellation. Et cette racine, bon, on peut pas la voir là, mais c'est une racine qui vraiment dit beaucoup de choses, ne serait-ce que par son odeur et par ce qu'elle dégage. Voilà. Elle se déploie complètement. Et l'intelligence artificielle, pour revenir à ça, peut-être qu'elle aurait bien besoin, voilà, qu'on l'enterre en fait. Peut-être on devrait juste la faire descendre de là où elle se trouve, c'est-à-dire dans un esprit complètement abstrait de la vie. Et donc je pense que ce qui serait pas mal, c'est de demander aux plantes d'enterrer cette intelligence artificielle et qu'elle aille faire un petit tour, voilà, auprès des insectes, auprès des grottes souterraines, auprès des pierres souterraines, des lacs souterrains, des cristaux. Et de la sagesse en fait que tout ça contient. Parce que là, l'intelligence artificielle, elle est là-haut quoi. C'est dans l'espèce de nuage abstrait.
I think what plants, a lot of them do well is just exist in community, cohabitate and share and support, not only other plant beings, but insects and people and animals and take care of the earth and the dirt. Yarrow popped into my mind just because as a plant it has a lot of so many medicinal properties and actions and mythology and magic and I just think it's a wise enough plant that if I would want to go to a school that taught plants, or that plant was the lead teacher. And in terms of artificial intelligence, I mean, I kind of wish that plants would say, this isn't a good route. I'm biased, I think it's actually better to go back to original intelligence, which is the earth medicine and, ancestral medicine.
Elles sont toutes pleines d'éthique. Elles sont respectueuses les unes des autres. Elles sont parfois timides. Elles s'entraident. Il n'y a pas de prédation. Il n'y a pas de violence. Et donc, il me semble qu'elles peuvent toutes jouer le rôle que vous attendez d'elles. Il y en a qui sont plus ou moins belles, ça c'est vrai. Mais la belle affaire, c'est pas le problème.
I think the western red cedar would be the plant I would choose first. This plant is so strong and can hold so much. And in the fall and winter, it releases some of its branches, some of the some of the greenery, they turn orange and brown and they start to fall. And this was the first year that I noticed the cedar trees doing this. Because with plants, I think for me, I noticed something and then later on down the road I noticed something completely new about the plant that teaches me something completely new. It just continues to be a learning journey. Being in their presence gives me a lot of peace, and even in hard times and some things that I've gone through, if I just go lay my back up against the tree and feel their bark, there's like this calming feeling that I can feel. And the smell of a cedar tree, the smell of their branches, teach you a lot to be in the present moment.
My name's Amethyst Faria, and I'm an herbalist and a lifetime gardener. I come from a long line of herbalists on my maternal side. And the first plant that comes to mind is nettles. Why I choose that plant is because it's so multifaceted. It has so many different uses, and you have to be mindful in wildcrafting or cultivating it. It's a very intelligent plant in itself, and I feel like just using it and getting to know it teaches me so much, and it teaches you to slow down and pay attention and really take the time to be in the moment with the plant. You know, sometimes we're so busy running around, so it's really helps you focus in. And I feel like that when I drink the medicine as well, when I drink the tea, that it's such a direct line of focus and nutritive abundance that comes into the body.
You know, there are many versions of this story. Somebody in this island culture becomes a leader. There's a division. They have a vision. It says, go to this other place. They are all good boat people, so they take their beautiful boats that are made entirely out of plants and their amazing navigation skills, and they have to make a choice because they're always going to a new world they haven't seen before. They haven't heard from anybody from that new world. Uninhabited islands across the Pacific. And so they have to make a choice. When we're going to this new world, what if none of the plants we know live in that world? What if our key food plants aren't there? What if our key medicine plants? What if the plant we make our clothing from? What if the plant that we use for glue? What if the plant that is our main prayer plant? What if they're not there? So how do we choose? We have to fit 50 people on our outrigger, and we don't know if we'll be at sea for weeks or months. We have to feed those 50 people, so we have to take the food, but we also have to take plant starts to plant in this new world because we have no idea what's there. And so every time these migrations happened, untold times, and we don't have historical records of any but the very latter stages, like when Hawaii was settled in the last 1,500 years and that kind of thing. But every stage, people made a selection of their plants, and generally how it's thought of is that they chose 20 to 24 species, and those were the species they thought they couldn't live without, and then they'd keep those alive till they got to the next place. And isn't it wonderful? And so sometimes they would find that species or a evolved cousin of it or whatever, and sometimes they wouldn't find anything like the plants they brought, and they were so glad they brought that one because they wouldn't have been able to make fiber for their clothing, or they would have, because they couldn't find something parallel to it, you know. So these days in Hawaii, the canoe plants are often referred to because they know what they brought. In the two migrations from two different island groups that came to Hawaii, the Marquesas and Tahiti, they know the plants that actually came on the boats. And that category, canoe plant, then seems so instructive to me because those are the plants that they knew they would need and their descendants would need, but in a way they're also their key categories that can't be lived without. It's like a language of plants that make our life possible. And those all have origin myths, and those all have stories about them, about how to use them, and how the plant or the deities, or it's different in each case, told the first human how to use them. And so there's just like this selection, and then this continuity of story that goes with it, and a number of examples of those. That would be looking at canoe plants and at the categories and how those were filled would be a way to find this sort of parallel question. What would be the plants that we'd send out into the future through signals or signs or artwork or whatever, so that people in the future could have their life, their relationships.
The plant that got me interested in herbalism would be mugwort, or Artemisia, who is named after a goddess who teaches about strength and being independent. And so mugwort is really helpful in connection to the lunar energy and connection to releasing things that no longer serve us. She's a great provider of bringing about menstruation, and she also is really known for her connection to helping people in their subconscious and dream states. And so mugwort is a plant that some people will take her by tincture, smoke her, or burn just the sage, just a bundle of her. And so I would say that she's probably been the most powerful presence, because I didn't even have to ingest the plant. I would just burn her by my bed or handle the bundle that I harvested before going to bed, and I would have very vivid dreams and be able to remember my dreams very in great detail the next day. And so I think she can be a very good teacher in helping us tap into our more subconscious knowings and our felt understandings of the world that aren't verbal.
Something that indigenous people and traditional people have known for a long time about plants is that their intelligence, I believe, surpasses ours as humans. I mean, certainly they played a huge role in the evolution of life. And I also say, and mushrooms, because they also have a lot of intelligence. But recently I think it's an Italian scientist, has discovered that plants not only share the 5 senses that human beings do, and animals, reptiles and such, what we call animate beings, but they have, I think, up to 12 or 15 other senses and ways of intelligence. I would love to see more people go out and do plant meditations and be with the plants and learn how to restore that relationship that it's innate to all of us ancestrally, of just learning and observing and listening and trying to 15 senses, what do you have to teach me?
Who knows what artificial intelligence understands about boundaries? Because I think it actually, just artificial intelligence alone, is crossing too many boundaries in the world and in humanity and what it means to be human. The first plant that comes to mind is nettles. One of its medicines is that it stings. And so I think when it comes to ethics and the way that we learn, let's say the human beings learn through stories, I think plants teach through experiences and not necessarily the stories of words. And nettles will sting you, but that's part of its medicine. And so boundaries, and ethics, I think, come a lot with boundaries. And healthy boundaries for oneself and for others, and understanding that everyone has a boundary. But sometimes there's medicine in when you cross over a boundary with someone or something, and then it bites you or stings you back, that's a clear learning and an understanding, and that's its medicine. Rose is a really good one, and we use that a lot in energetic herbalism. So people say, imagine the rose, this beautiful flower, when it comes to seeing someone's beauty in someone else. But protect yourself with its thorns, because You don't want someone to cross too far into your own well-being and your own boundary.
I'm standing here with hawthorn, which is also known as Crataegus monogyna. This is a true multi-species food forest tree. Feeds lots of critters. Feeds deer, all kinds of birds, lots of little critters, and also humans. It's also medicine for humans. It heals the heart, regulates the heartbeat, clears up excess cholesterol. There's all kinds of really good things for the physical heart. And it also is known to heal the emotional heart and to heal broken hearts. Hawthorn also has special relevance in early modernity. So as the commons in Europe and food forests were getting wiped out in favor of enclosure, right, and primitive accumulation, the hawthorn went from being central to these common spaces, these commons, and began to be planted as fences, right, as hedgerows to keep the commoners out of the food forests. And so in a way, their thorns were literally driving the commoners to the cities, right? They were literally creating a landless proletariat that had to find work in the factories, in the newly growing cities. But even when it's a fence, it's still feeding the commoners, right? It's still feeding this new landless proletariat. And it's known as, in fact, it's known as the bread and cheese tree. So if you're really hungry, you can take a leaf and wrap it around a hawthorn berry and eat it, and it will stave off hunger. So hawthorn knows what it means to go from food forestry to fence. It really knows in a visceral way the history of early capitalism, right? And the way that food forests turn into fences. And so in this way, I think hawthorn, it knows how to turn to service a different agenda. And so I think in a way, hawthorn knows how to turn precision agriculture technology away from its service to exploitative regimes, right? To regimes that require forced labor, right? Hawthorn knows this first moment of the Plantationocene, right? Of the sort of ways that the enclosure movement reduces and simplifies ecologies and exhausts its own base and requires forced labor, right? Hawthorn knows that and participated in it. And so I think it also knows how to flip back or betray again. And I think this time it will take the technologies of precision agriculture with us, or with it, and with the witches to labor, to create a new alliance of multi-species labor that honors abundance and equity and resource-rich agendas where witches and machines and all of our multi-species kin can flourish in a new alliance.
I would think the oldest tree in the forest would have the most wisdom because he's been interacting with so many plant beings and birds, all kinds of migratory birds and nests and different kinds of fungi that was able to emerge on his body, and even microorganism and other species that sometimes can only grow on older trees. I would think they have a vast knowledge of being able to exchange and learn from others.